Being recorded too, which is good. And they're filing in. Vanessa, I swear you're the first one to jump in every time. Welcome, everyone. We're going to give it a few minutes to let everybody file in before we get started, get situated. Thanks for being here.
Hey guys. So we have Utah, Connecticut, Texas in the house, North Carolina. Nice.
Is everybody gearing up to head to NARPM broker owner next week?
Hope to see everybody there.
Be a good time. Looks like the weather is going to be ideal for Texas. For 80s and 90s.
Yeah, I had
dig through the bottom of my closet to find my summer clothes because it's been a little chilly in South Dakota.
Hey, it's in the 40s, Madison. Okay,
I know.
There's a heat wave going on.
Heat wave right now for sure.
Have you guys still been getting snow lately?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't see any snow in the next 2 weeks, which is good. Kind of over that. We had a cold winter. We didn't get a lot of snow, but it was cold here. Normally our winters aren't that cold, but we'd have like sub-zero temps, and then it'd be like 50 in a day just to like tease us, and then it'd go sub-zero again.
But it was blistering cold. Like it hurt. It was so cold.
It's awful. All right, looks like kind of slowed down and people jumping in. So we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you everybody for joining us for yet another Beyond Maintenance. Today we're going to jump into understanding the importance of implementing systematic processes to help you do more with less and increase your operational efficiency, maximize revenue, and prevent employee burnout right now in the middle of the Great Resignation. So I have two amazing panelists with me today. I have Todd Orscheid, President, CEO, and owner of Revolution Rental Management. Todd, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hey, everybody. Todd Orscheid. Like she said, Revolution Rental Management, we're down in Georgia, Florida, and probably South Carolina pretty soon, about to close a deal over there, I think. So kind of throughout the Southeast is where we are. I also am one of the owners of Always There Repair that does maintenance hotline coordination, and PM Assist, where we do consultations on revenue maximization and that kind of stuff.
Thanks, Todd. And also Sylvia Armour from Property Meld. She's our manager of business development.
Hey guys, so I've been with Property Meld for about 3 years now. And so before Property Meld, I was actually in active duty Air Force, where I worked in the civil engineering squadron, and I was in charge of maintenance coordination for the entire base. And that was my first experience with the machine that maintenance really is.
Excellent. Well, thanks, guys. As always, please feel free to drop your questions in either the question and answer panel or the chat. throughout the conversation. We're going to keep a pulse on those and make sure that as many as possible, get answered as they drop in. So you guys can feel part of this conversation throughout. And let's go ahead and get started. So in a November 2021 survey for the Bureau of Labor Statistics, 4.5 million Americans were reported to have quit their jobs. As employees are leaving their jobs to reevaluate their approach to work, employees who are staying are left to pick up the slack. Todd, can you give us some insight on how you've seen the Great Resignation impact the property management industry?
I mean, I'm hearing about it from a lot of companies out there. I mean, it hasn't really impacted us as much because we, at Revolution, we are heavily outsourced. So we use a lot of remote employees in Mexico and other locations, mainly Mexico. So we haven't seen a lot of that. We do have some key employees here in the United States. And by, doing that outsourcing and also doing some of the other efficiencies, we'll cover today, we have the profit to be able to pay those employees in the United States very well. So, we're able to seek out the best talent for those key positions we need here in order to hang on to them, offer them great benefits, great compensation so that they'll stick around. But, one of the keys is, trying to do as much as you can offshore. When you do that, number one, you're getting great employees. You're getting bilingual employees usually who really help out for a lot of the markets we're in. And they're employees that are very thrilled to have those kind of jobs. It's a great job where they get a fantastic income for where they live, even though it's very inexpensive for us. So, it kind of doesn't make that Great Resignation really impact us all that much because that's more of an American phenomenon right now. In Mexico, that's not really what's happening. More of what's happening is people are leaving Mexican companies to come work for American companies who are outsourcing to Mexico. So, it's not a Great Resignation. It's, people flooding in to want to work for companies like ours. So that really kind of helps with that situation.
Absolutely. And Sylvia, with your experience in the thousands of property managers, management companies, and managers, maintenance coordinators that you've had the opportunity to communicate with in your tenure at Property Meld, why do you think the industry has been hit so hard?
So we have so many conversations daily with maintenance coordinators and of course maintenance supervisors. And every single day that we have these conversations, we are hearing that the tasks and the duties that they once had that they found so much joy in is actually what is causing them the most stress within their job. Of course, number one is like building those relationships with their residents, their vendors, and their owners. And that's still the priority, but the amount of calls that these maintenance coordinators are getting and the amount of follow-up that they're doing is taking up so much of their time that they feel like there's not any growth for them and there's not like a development path for them. And the bottom line is burnout. They feel stifled in their roles. And what's very interesting about the burnout we are hearing about is that they're afraid to tell their boss that they are burnt out. And that's like one of the biggest factors because their bosses are, very surprised when they're starting to have employee churn. When in reality, if there was automated tasks, if their position, had their data working smarter for them, if there were systems put in place for them to focus on actual tasks that bring revenue value to the company, they would have more retainability. And these are things that we're hearing all the time. And so there are the words stress, exhaustion, wanting a work-life balance that they don't have. And that's why people turn to us and have conversations with us. That is definitely my experience in the property management industry right now.
Absolutely. And we're looking at it, we know what the problem is, and people leaving, companies needing that opportunity to do more with less. Let's talk about what the symptoms are and how it really impacts the company. And Sylvia, how is it so much more than just filling open positions?
Well, you have to kind of look at the churn in like two different ways. Was it healthy? Because if it's healthy, like great, you are saving the company time and the company money. But did you lose an employee who was a top performer, who, brought good revenue to the company, who brought morale? Like that's a huge loss. And you have to kind of self-reflect. I call it like the 3 stages of grieving. When I do lose a top performer, I am self-reflecting and I'm like, what could I do to retain? And so once you're done with that self-reflection period, you have to be very systematic in the changes you are putting into processes. So what can be automated? I want my team to like focus on positive levers and still have time within their day to take a long lunch, go pick up their kids. And I see higher production within my team when there isn't hard pressure felt on people. I could do more with less. And when I do have my data working smarter for me, I don't have to hire anyone else. Like right now with like the team that I have, we are the highest producing we have been in a very long time with the smallest staff we have had in a long time. And I don't want to turn to my team and like have them pick up the pieces, have them feel burnt out by, taking on additional duties that can be automated for them. And the best outcome of like finding those pieces in your process that can be automated for you is staffing efficiency. Like I don't have to hire another employee. I don't have to spend the time training them. I don't have to spend the time relying on my teams to help me train them. Like there's the biggest risk for when you lose someone is cost. And that means something different to everybody.
Absolutely. And so rolling on that, we are in an industry that is a little bit behind the curve when it comes to making changes and hesitant to doing that. And we're in a time of right now where we're almost forced into it. Todd, can you talk a little bit about the financial ramifications of just sitting back and continuing to try to do the same things that you've always done as everything around you is changing?
Yeah, I mean, what you said there was actually, very true about a lot of people have been forced into some of these changes, and that's kind of a good thing. That's one of the few good things that kind of came out of the pandemic is a lot of companies kind of got into a situation where they were really doing things really old-fashioned, the same way they've been doing it since the 1980s, and they found themselves in a position where their office was shut down. Everybody had to work from home. They couldn't do showings. There was so much stuff they couldn't do. And they were just forced into this situation where they had to modernize. So, it was painful for a lot of people, but it was also very good for them in the long run, because as you say, you need that in order to be efficient, because what's going to happen for the companies that don't take those steps to automate is they're going to find a situation where they can't compete, because the companies that have automated, the companies that use Property Meld or, who have Lead Simple that are helping with automation, all these different automation options, if they aren't, the companies that are doing that are watching their costs creep down as they automate everything, and they're able to reduce their prices to be more competitive in the market, which means that they can snag those clients. It means they can provide better services to residents. So when they're doing that, those companies that are still stuck in the old way of doing business, they can't compete anymore. Now they still have to charge that high price because they're not efficient and they can't get those customers, or they can't provide that level of service to the resident. So residents start leaving, you get that resident churn, and then you start to get client churn because of the resident churn. So it all ultimately gets back to those efficiencies. If you can have those efficiencies, and on the other side, bring in the revenue, of course, then you're in the prime position to be able to compete in the market. But if you don't do that, you're just going to watch your market share continue to drop.
Absolutely.
That is so true. We speak to hundreds of property management companies every single week, and there might be a broker owner or a maintenance coordinator who we spoke with in the beginning of 2021 who were like, we're not making any changes. We love the manual. We love following up with everyone, because they definitely felt that that was like a level of service that was top tier when like everyone around them was starting to make automated changes to their company. And now, like a year later, they're like, we don't know what we were thinking. Like, let's have a conversation about automation, about efficiency, because now they're starting to see efficiency equal dollars and cents, and how that can definitely increase revenue, which is awesome.
I think some of that is just a misconception too. There's a lot of people who have that conception that, or that perception, like you were talking about, that it's good customer service to have all this manual phone calls and everything.
Mm-hmm.
If you actually go out and look now, there is a ton of customer research that's publicly available now that Amazon and a lot of other companies that have done, that shows that people don't want personal interaction. I mean, there's a small percentage of people who do, maybe 5 or 10%, but most people want self-service. Just, they want to be able to log into a portal, take care of it themselves on their own time at 1 o'clock in the morning when they're not at work, and just have it taken care of. They don't want to have to make 5 phone calls or have somebody call them. That's just not what people are looking for nowadays.
I totally agree with you.
We've talked about this a lot, how had a pulse on the demographic of the resident changing into more millennial. It's been there for a while. They don't want to talk on the phone. They don't want to pick up the phone. Texting, messaging is where it's at. And they're the on-demand generation, where they want to see things being taken care of without having to communicate with that. And so that's been pretty commonplace for the past few years. But now what we're seeing is, not only is our resident demographic becoming like primarily millennial, we're also seeing the owner demographic shift in that. So these investors, your property owners, are becoming millennial too, and they want that same sort of hands off, always in the know treatment that we've seen in the past, or that we've seen with the residents have. So that's a very interesting shift that we're watching and keeping a really good pulse on too. So Todd, as you mentioned when we kicked this off, Revolution is, you've done a lot of things that have kind of been outside of the box. You haven't really felt a lot of the impact on this. What would you say your top systematic processes that you have in place that help impact and increase your operational efficiency?
Well, I mean, obviously maintenance is one of the big ones. So, I mean, we don't have any employees in the United States who handle maintenance. So all of our maintenance coordination is either automated through Property Meld, which is pretty highly automated, or, the follow-up and everything that needs to be done on that is handled by our remote team members in Mexico, or through Always There Repair, handling our hotline calls. So everything is basically, I don't have to have an employee sitting in the United States in my office here being paid $60,000 or $80,000 a year to do basic follow-up work. I mean, that's something that you can automate through a workflow in Property Meld, and it just kind of happens. And then the more complex follow-up on things like, property turns and all that kind of stuff is handled by that remote team member, who is at a third of the cost. So, we haven't had that turnover of employees in that department. And we're able to basically manage a lot more maintenance, a lot more units with a smaller number of employees because of the automation and everything we've done on that. And then, of course, we've also got leasing automation that we do self-showings. All of our lead follow-up on that is all automated. There's just so much you can do nowadays. I always tell people whenever I'm consulting with them, you should have a 3-step process that you go through for everything you do. Number 1, is it possible to automate this? And if it is, that's what you should do. Always, every single time, without a doubt, find an automation solution if you can. If it can't be automated, then is it possible to have a remote team member in Mexico or somewhere else take care of it? And only if that's not possible, then do you move on and say, okay, it's time, this is a high level task we need boots on the ground for. That's when we hire someone in the States. And that's how you'll keep your costs down and your efficiencies up. I mean, that's really the way to go.
Absolutely. And I think, Sylvia, this too, in a lot of the conversations that you have, that, the two thoughts or schools of thought in here being, take it all remote, do that. But it doesn't necessarily mean to automate and put these systematic processes in place that you have to do that, or minimize your staff if you don't need to. But if you can remove these mundane tasks, where can these employees that are here focus their time?
Yeah, absolutely. The way that people handled maintenance 2 years ago is so different of how they're handling maintenance now. And that's mindset, and that's finding reliable people to actually hire, do the work, find the time to train them. But like the old school thought was, I bring value to my company by being busy. I am typing, I am taking phone calls, I am answering calls at like 9 p.m. Like hustle culture was a very, very real thing. And now we're starting to like realize that no, burnout is so much more real than that. And if you could put changes in place, you should be focusing on like revenue. Is typing in a work order into your software bringing value to your company? I don't think it is. Is answering a phone call at like 9 p.m. for a status update something that brings money to your company? It doesn't. Like, let's take the staff you have now, get maintenance under control, get it being like a very well-oiled machine, and then what can I do to bring revenue? What are the other tasks I potentially have to hire out that I can give to my maintenance coordinator, make them feel fulfilled in their work, have their development path grow, get them to like learn a different skill set. That is like what will bring revenue to the company. And I mean that's the funnest part about our job, is like being able to like learn about processes and saying, hey, this is how we can directly bring revenue and staffing satisfaction to your company.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I'd love for the viewers to drop into the chat and let us know if you are experiencing any of this. Obviously, if you're here and the topic intrigued you, but like what you're experiencing with the burnout, and if you yourselves have put in any systematic processes in place that have really done that. And normally we don't dig in and talk very much about property meld, but when we're spending so much time talking about automation, we're really pushing the industry in that direction to exactly what Sylvia said. What is adding value? Is troubleshooting a garbage disposal adding value to your company? Is that money well spent? If you weren't having to troubleshoot all of those garbage disposal melts that come through or work requests that come through, where can you position your time outside of that? And that's where we came up with workflows, and we've spent a lot of time developing that. So now all of those things can be hands-free and moving towards the work order that completes itself, where you can go out and you can bring on more owners and you can put your focus that way and continue to grow your business for sure.
Yeah, what Sylvia's talking about there is fantastic. In the real estate business, what we call it is highest and best use. So, we usually think about it when referring to a property, but you can do the same thing with employees. What is an employee's highest and best use? Mm-hmm. Is it dealing with a garbage disposal troubleshoot, or is it, maintaining a relationship with the client? Mm-hmm. That's not something that you can really automate. Or is it quality control, looking over the work that's been done and making sure that it was done well? I can't get my computer to go out to a house and do quality control. So, that's not something I can automate. That's something that a person is great for. So, it's all about highest and best use. Is it better for that employee to be doing these, routine, repetitive tasks, or is it better for them to be doing those kind of things that a computer can't do?
Well, think about like a maintenance supervisor. They have a team that, it needs to be trained. They have to have like coaching. There has to be mentoring, cheerleading as well. And if you're spending your time trying to schedule work or having to do that like very manual quality control, like you could be making your team stronger and better, and also create more retainability within your company as well.
Absolutely. I think of the burnout again, and the root source of that is not necessarily the workload, but just the lack of value within the things that you're doing and maintaining those relationships. And it's funny to think about maintaining relationships when things are automated, but then you're having those conversations not on stressful, painful experiences, but able to go in and reach out and have conversations that aren't around that and more value added that way, for sure, as well. I think this is the first one we haven't had any questions pop through the chat yet from our viewers. Anybody have any questions that we can continue to build this conversation on?
Everybody's quiet today.
I know. Where is everybody?
We got a lot of people too.
Yeah. Questions from here. Thanks, Savannah. Okay, so here we go. What kind of things do you do to improve the morale of remote employees? That's a great one, Vanessa.
So I would say that, there's several things you can do. Number one, make sure you're staying in touch with your employees regularly about how they feel about their job, the company, just everything. Because a lot of business owners, I think I posted about this on Facebook recently, they think everything is great, because, the employees generally aren't going to come to you and just say, hey, I'm not happy. That's just not how it works. People just don't feel comfortable doing that usually, no matter how friendly and open door of a policy boss you are, they're just not going to do that. So you need to have some sort of system in place to try to collect that feedback. We use a system called Office Vibe that, it allows employees to submit anonymous feedback. It pings them on a regular basis, asking them questions. So we can kind of get that feedback about how they feel about the business. And we use that to determine what we need to do to make it a better work environment. So if they're saying they're stressed out, they're overworked, and that tells us, okay, we need to put more effort into getting that repetitive work off of them so they can do things that bring value and make them happier at work. Or maybe they're telling you that they're underpaid. And that's something you need to know. If they feel that they're underpaid, it doesn't matter if you feel that they're not. If their perception is they're underpaid, there's going to be a problem. That's why we have mass resignation across the country. So, get that feedback so you know how your employees are feeling. But as far as, remote employees specifically, make sure that you have them on Zoom calls on a regular basis. You want to have full, all hands meetings where everybody is interacting so that they don't feel like, as a remote employee, that they're different from an in-office employee. We did a office Christmas party back in December, or holiday party, I guess it was called. And we had all of the remote employees on it also. So, they were there, they had their kids that everybody could meet, their pets, all that kind of stuff. Everybody was talking. Do those kind of things so that it feels more like a normal office environment, I think, so that camaraderie is kind of there.
Yeah, we've talked about this a lot, Todd, and you guys have done an excellent job in not only like implementing that, but sharing across the industry how you do it. And I think a lot of people benefited from those conversations. Bridget asks, how do you put these ideas to practical use? Todd did a good job mentioning a few of the solutions that he's using to do that. I think that that's a good starting point. But I think going back, and Sylvia and Todd, you can jump in too, but evaluating where the strains are and where the stressors are, and listening to the teams too, or if you are the team, evaluating like how much of your time is going into these mundane tasks, where you're burning out, and searching for those options to streamline that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say as far as priorities, there's always key things in every business that you can start off with to get the most repetitive work off of your team's hands to start with. Start with maintenance, obviously, because you get so much of the phone calls and everything that you get is maintenance related. So the more that you can automate on that, the better off you are, because it frees up so much time for everybody. And after you've got that really honed well, move on to leasing automation, get that done, because those two things are 90% of the phone calls and the emails you get at your property management office. It's all maintenance and leasing. So once you get that stuff automated, then it frees up so much time for not only your staff, but also for you. So, that lets you then move on to doing some of the more complicated automation and everything that you can do at that point, because you actually finally have the time to work on it, because you got all this meaningless stuff that's just repetitive work that you could automate off of your plate.
Absolutely.
And I also think it's important to have a very collaborative team, and have people like give their insights. What are our most important KPIs? What do you see missing from our business? Like, ask the peers around you too, because if I'm the only person trying to find those like lagging indicators or like ways to improve or like how I should implement, then I'm only going off of my own ideas. Like, I need collaboration from everybody, just in case there's holes in the process. Then you can pick who your winners are to help you implement those things.
Absolutely. So Casey asks, can we talk more about quality control? What does that look like in your companies?
So, I mean, it depends on how you're structured. Some companies will have someone that they'll call a runner who might go around and do that kind of work, to go around and see quality control and maintenance work. Some people have a leasing agent do it. That's how we structure it. So our leasing agents are actually responsible for quality control. Since we got so much of the, repetitive leasing phone calls and everything off their plate, now they're able to actually go out to properties, make sure that rent ready work was done right, and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it just depends on how you want to structure your company. Different companies are going to do it different ways. Some people have in-house inspectors that they can have do quality control work. But I mean, the key to that is you can only do it if you've gotten your business to the point where they're not doing busy work all the time. So, you have to get rid of the busy work so they're able to actually do that important work, like quality control on turnovers or whatever it is you're trying to make sure is where you're getting quality work. I mean, that's really what you need to do. You need to make it where they can do those high level tasks because they're not oversaturated.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So Anand asked, can we talk about cost and tenant feedback? Might need a little bit more insight on that question. If we have it, we'll come back to that one. Yes, Bridget, we can talk about some of the new automations and how to use them. Todd, have you has your team gotten into workflows very much? This feature is like brand new, about not even quite a month old.
Yeah, I actually wasn't even aware of it. My maintenance manager, or one of my maintenance managers, Carlos, actually told me about it. We had a Zoom call last week where he was telling me about all of it. So he's actually working on getting all that stuff set up for us. It is new. So, it's kind of like, I guess, in the last few weeks. So we don't have a lot of it set up yet, I don't think. Maybe we do. I just don't know. I haven't talked to Carlos about it since last week, but I know he's working on that stuff. But we do intend to do a lot with that because there's so much that we can automate now that used to be, follow-up tasks and everything that our maintenance managers just had to know to do. It was kind of in our checklists and everything for them to do it, but now we can just automate that through property meld. So it's just a workflow that automatically happens for those melds. So, we're still at the beginning stage of it because it's so new, but we're definitely going to be taking advantage of it.
Absolutely. And Bridget, Liz is going to drop a link in our into the chat so everybody can see that. The link will take you to more information about workflows. If you're a property meld customer, reach out to your CSM, your customer success manager, or our support, and they'll get you into a quick demo on how to build that. And also, if you are not a property meld customer, Sylvia's team will take care of you and work you through all those additional automations. It's great. It's everything from very static, garbage disposal, troubleshooting, to very specific. You have one vendor who likes to have things handled this way and it's very manual for you. You can set up a workflow and make sure that every time you're working with that vendor, things are happening that way. So the possibilities are unlimited and we're really excited about it.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Hey, Billy. Billy asked, how many automations does Todd have set up in PM workflow so far? He kind of already answered that. What parts of the workflows does Todd's employees like the most? I think you kind of went over that you guys are all just kind of digging in right now.
Yeah, on the property meld side, absolutely. I mean, when you get outside of that, I mean, we've got thousands upon thousands of automations that we do for everything in the business. But as far as the workflow side on property meld, that is new. So we're just getting that set up now.
Okay. When dealing with, and this is from Marissa. When dealing with senior residents, we're talking 55 to 90 years old, who aren't comfortable with technology, forward changes, how do you push electronic submission, and do you have something that simplifies the process for them, for people who want to receive phone calls instead of largely automated processes?
Yeah, we don't force people into the automation. I mean, we do try to encourage it as much as we possibly can, but I mean, that's one of the reasons that my other company, Always There Repair, exists, is because there are still people who want to make the phone call. So, we want to try to direct people to the portal as much as possible and submit that right through Property Meld, because that's the most efficient way to get it taken care of. So we try our best to move people towards that. But for those people who don't want to do that, we've got the maintenance hotline. So, they can call that number, and then, the hotline team will enter it into Property Meld for them. So you always want to have those options there for those people who actually do want that. But I would say more often than not, when you think that somebody wants that, what's really happening is they tried to use your system and it didn't work very well. So you have to fine tune your system to make it easier for them. Most of the time, there are a few people, the 90-year-old lady who's never owned a computer in her life and still uses a flip phone. She's not going to want to use the portal, but that's a rare tenant. There's not a whole lot of those. So, overall, everybody's going to want to use the automation as long as you set it up right. You just kind of have to have the other system for that one-off case that comes along here and there.
Yeah, and if you can eliminate, 90% of it, that 10% is a lot easier to handle if even that. Sylvia, this one's a good one for you because I know you guys hear this a lot from Shauna or Shannon, sorry. Our issue is having time to set up automation. I'm the maintenance coordinator and handle all admin for maintenance. Any suggestions to help that does not include staying late or working overtime? Our office is small and we have one and a half persons in the department.
Yeah, so people are so afraid of the word implementation, right? Like you think it's going to take an army to be able to do it, or a lot of bandwidth. And that's just really not the case. I wouldn't be afraid of the implementation stage at all. What I would encourage you doing is having a conversation, and then we can directly tell you where we can help benefit your company the most. And what was the question about the garbage disposal? Was that part of the question?
No, I haven't gotten that far down.
But I mean, we don't want you to stay late. We don't want you having to spend a lot of calories outside of the office to have automation. It does not have to be that way. And if that's the case for you right now, you will be in very, very safe hands with us, with our customer success manager. They are going to take a lot of that off of your plate for you. And I would say, let's, set up a call sometime this week and I can talk to you a little bit more in depth about that.
Yeah, I think I can't speak for other solutions out there, but I do know that Property Meld prides itself in the ability to take on the bulk of that weight, knowing that that's what is, you're not the only one. And I see that popping up in the chat that people are like, ditto, feeling the same way. That when we're looking at our implementation process, it's the CSMs are taking the bulk of that weight off of your plate. So you guys can really focus again on what's going to increase your efficiencies, what's going to maximize your revenues, what's going to push you forward and not be stressed out of, oh my gosh, I have to learn this. I have to get my team on board. I don't have time. I'm just trying to stay afloat as it is. So we hear that and we know we want like everybody to know that it's different here.
Staying up late and like having to work after hours is something that we want to prevent from you. Like we don't want that happening.
Yeah, one thing I would want to say about that is everybody kind of gets scared about the implementation and, I've got to spend, a half hour setting up this, workflow and, what am I going to do? How am I going to find this half hour? But what I always remind everybody is you spend that half hour and you're not fixing the problem for today. You're fixing that problem that comes up every single day forever. So if you automate that task, you spend 30 minutes on it today, you're not going to have to do it tomorrow. You're never going to have to do it again. It's done. It's over with. You solved that problem for yourself. So you're, just remember that return on investment that you get from that little bit of time that you spend on implementing that automation, because it's exponential.
Absolutely. Another question, does the tenant like automation and does that software take feedback?
Yes. Yes to everything. Well, because think about it, like I don't want a phone call. Like I don't answer calls from people who I don't know. And I don't want to have to call someone back and then have to listen to their voicemail. And a lot of residents have that same exact mindset. They're at work all day long. They can't take a call, or they're in the middle of dinner. Like the thing is, residents really want a very easy way to not only communicate but feel like they're heard and feel taken care of. And with automation, it definitely checks all of those boxes. And I have an app for everything. I try to automate everything in my life. And of course, it does take feedback, because resident satisfaction is number one. A very happy resident is a sticky resident, and if they feel heard, if they feel taken care of, then there's not going to be churn there as well. So we want to prevent as much churn as possible, so that there's not so many make readies for you guys.
And that feedback, by the way, is another opportunity for automation, because if you've got Property Meld set up right and you got a Grade Us account, if you get positive feedback from a resident about a repair, it'll ping them to leave you a positive review. Mm-hmm. So you can use this to get reviews for your company on Google or Yelp or wherever also. So that's another thing you can automate to get that great feedback.
Great for marketing as well.
So Vanessa says, I've started implementing not answering the phone right away so that I'm not pulled away. My phone automatically sends a message saying that I'm unavailable, and I will call back as soon as possible, and letting them know they can also text. 4 out of 5 times, what they are calling about is not an emergency, and it can wait until I'm done. Also, now I use Calendarly all the time, and I have PPL just scheduled a call with me all the time that is convenient and for them and won't interrupt me. That's awesome. Thanks, Vanessa.
Super smart.
Okay. I'm just kind of digging through here for questions. Okay. Jessica, could you provide an example of how this automation system works, and what essentially the play-by-play for, say, plumbing or maintenance tasks? Actually, I'm going to go ahead and have Liz went in there, and she is going to post a link. We did a webinar about 2 weeks ago where we went through and talked about different use cases and the value on that, and then broke down how to set up individual automation workflows for specific use cases. So that would be a really good insight to go and look and see how all of that works.
And it was fun too. That was like a really great webinar.
It was a lot of fun to do. And if there's interest in kind of going through and doing that, we'll put that on just a whole Beyond Maintenance on automation for sure. And we can talk about not only just maintenance, but some other things that we can do with automation to, or not just with Property Meld, but other ways you can implement automation. So, and Todd, do you want to drop a link for Always There Repair also? That would be a great thing for everybody to check out if you're looking for after hours and emergency.
Yes.
Works great with Property Meld.
Yes, definitely does. Thank you.
And it's a great team too. Everyone there is amazing.
I was very lucky to get some amazing people signed on with that. So it's we're very happy with it. And if anybody has any issues, when they're signing up or after they get service, they can call me directly, and we'll always make sure we take care of them.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yes, that's awesome.
Well, if you guys use the links that Liz has dropped, if you have any additional questions, always feel free to email me directly, Madison@Property Meld, and I will connect you with the right melder to answer your questions if I can't answer them myself. But this was a great session. It was so good to have everybody here. And we are excited to announce that we're going to be hosting our second Property Meld User Summit in Rapid City at our new headquarters, August 17th through the 19th. We'll have some great speakers lined up, as always, in Property Meld style, some great events, social events around that as well. But if you're interested in coming in and learning more about Property Meld, how to use it to its fullest, connecting with great thought leaders in the industry, it's the place to do it. So we will be opening up registration for that April 1st and sending out more information, but just giving you guys, so you hear the dates first, August 17th through the 19th. And then our next Beyond Maintenance we'll be bringing in our CEO and co-founder Ray Hespin to talk about why watching the lifetime value of your owners is important and how to maximize that. So that'll be May 26th. I can't believe we're already in May. This year is going by so fast.
It really is.
But thank you both for being here. I appreciate it. Beyond Maintenance Day is like one of my favorite times of the month to connect and talk with everybody. So
yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Todd. It was so nice seeing you again.
Yeah, you too.
All right. And make sure you guys stop by if you're in San Antonio next week, stop by the Property Meld booth so I can put some faces to names.
Oh yeah, Madison's going. I completely forgot.
Yes,
Yes.
I'll be there. Yep. And we will send out the recording hopefully by the end of the day, if not tomorrow. So you guys will get that link. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Bye.